Yo guys, what is going on? It is Invin here. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the future of New World and what they have released to us information wise in regards to their roadmap. Now this information was given to us in the dev update video which was released earlier today at the time of recording. Obviously that video will be linked in the description if you guys do want to check it out yourselves. But essentially what I'm going to do is cover the changes that are upcoming in the spring and the summer updates, as that's kind of the time frames they've given us, as well as some of the stuff that's coming in the winter, but most of it we have already seen in previous patch notes. So obviously firstly starting off the winter stuff, we've got some territory changes coming, so that's going to be particularly combating shell companies. To do this, mainly what they're going to do is have a company leave cooldown for 72 hours. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't join another company. You are free to hop around between companies. However, once you leave a company, there is a 72-hour gap where you can't participate in wars or influence pushes during that time period. So for 3 days afterwards, you won't be able to take part in those. You also have war roster limitations. These are going to be defense is now going to require 40 members from the owning company to sign up, which means you can have a maximum of 10 mercenaries. And for attacks, it's going to be a 25-25 minimum split. So that means you've got to have a minimum of 25 from the attacking company, but you can have up to 25 mercenaries, or indeed just put your whole company in if you have enough members signed up. And the third thing is a daily war limit, which will be to 1 attack and 1 defense war per day per character on a world. So that's going to be reset every single day at 5 AM with the server reset time. What this does mean is that you can do separate wars, for example, if you have a legacy character and a fresh start character, because they are, of course, on different worlds. However, if you have alt accounts on the same world, you will be locked out of that because it is just 1 world or 1 account per world per day for 1 attack and 1 defense, if that makes sense. So they're kind of trying to combat all these shell companies and stuff, but it does mean that legacy and fresh start can still hopefully run synonymously without any issues with wars there, which is still a positive thing in my opinion. Now, they've also done some crafting station tier changes. Here they've ungated a lot of recipes. Essentially, any procedural recipes you can craft at any level, so things like your hearty meals or your health potions. But specifically named items or specialty potions, you know, we're looking at things like the ancient coatings or corrupted coatings or whatever. Those will still require the upgraded version of the stations. Now, crafting station tiers will also start to give an Azoth discount at higher levels, meaning that you'll require less Azoth to put into your tools or your equipment to make it better. So there is still going to be incentive, of course, along with the changes they made to how income works. The more upgraded the territory is, the better. So there is still going to be benefits to that, but hopefully this is going to mean people have access. Mainly it's going to be affecting fresh start worlds, I would assume, but I think this is going to be a useful change. They've also made a change to town boards, so obviously they nerfed massively the amount of XP that you could get through doing those, and of course gold in turn there as well. But what they are now doing to combat this, because obviously the upgrades for the towns were not getting done as quickly, is drastically reducing the contribution required by up to 70 or 80% is what they've said in the dev update video, which is a huge change. So it basically is going to mean that a company can single-handedly run their tasks up for that particular upgrade if they're really wanting to get it done. It also is going to mean that just passively, even if people are only doing a couple here and there, it's still going to get done a lot faster. Now, there is still the cooldown timer for these, so it's not going to be a quick spam sort of thing, but it is going to be much, much quicker to get those upgrades completed. So if your company wants to go ahead and do that, you should be able to do so. So now we're going to be looking at the roadmap and specifically projecting forward to what we're going to be seeing. And they did make a big statement at the start of this saying essentially it is not a hard commitment. There is going to be changes due to feedback or, you know, actually what they end up working on, what they prioritize, and some stuff maybe earlier or later than this. But this is just a general guide. And they also said it's not a comprehensive list, but I'm going to cover that after that. I'll show you guys what is going on. So first things first then, this is the content roadmap that we have been given. You can see here, this is from the YouTube video, the dev update, which again, I will link in the description if you want to check it out for yourself in its entirety. But you can see here that we have 2 milestones being spring 2023 and summer 2023. Now you can see what we're going to be getting here. So to quickly run through, in spring we're going to be getting the Empyrean Forge expedition, which is going to be a new Varagian Knight expedition, focusing on fighting those humanoids. They did say with this one that it is the first part of a 2-part story, so it is obviously going to have a counterpart at some point, but obviously looking at the summer list, it isn't there, so maybe winter next year or autumn, we don't know yet. However, the first part of a 2-part story, which is pretty cool. They also said because we are fighting humanoids for the first time, there will be new items, new loot drops sort of thing that come from this expedition that are going to be really sought after, so that is very exciting indeed. Now the next thing here you guys have probably all clocked onto is gear set storage system. So finally we are going to have gear management systems in New World to store your gear in different sets, which is going to be unimaginably helpful. I'm very glad that this is in the first half. Obviously, a lot of us, once we get to endgame, whether you're on fresh starts or you're on legacy servers, especially if you're on legacy servers, if you've been playing for a long time, you're going to have different sets for each of your crafting skills, your refining skills, when you're going gathering, when you're doing PvP, different sets for each type of PvE, you know, whether it's Corrupted Ward, Angry Earth Ward, etc. And then, of course, if you go into PvP, you'll have different sets based on what kind of role you want to play there. So this is going to be super important because New World is a classless game. This is going to mean all the difference to all of the players. Everybody is super excited for that, and I think that one can't come soon enough. If they're going to release any early, it should be that one. That's super useful. Now, they also are going to release here a Springtide Bloom event. This one is going to be a brand new event in Eternum. When they were going over this in the dev update video, they said it was something to do with harvesting flowers and bugs start to attack you, so you have to use a bug repellent. I'm not really 100% sure, I don't think they were either, but some sort of spring event essentially is coming to New World, which of course, again, is going to be colourful. It's going to bring us some new rewards, obviously token-based stuff there like we've seen in the other events where you can use those tokens towards stuff. So that's really cool, and of course that's coming after the Winter Convergence festival that we're going to see this winter, so in the next update hopefully here for Eternum. Now, the final thing they are looking at is more main story quest improvements, and essentially what they said here is the next 2 zones. So they're looking at Weaver's Fen and Brightwood in terms of improvements there. So that's kind of going to take us from about 25 to 35 or 40-ish in terms of levels. So not the full way to 60 yet, and as you can see again on the summer list, that isn't there. However, it probably is something they're working on. But the main improvements to the main story quest, the next ones are going to be coming in spring, which again is super cool for anybody that wants to get into the game or is still going to be leveling characters, and I do think it's important to keep that improving along the side. Now moving on to the summer stuff then. So next summer we're going to be able to see TRANSMOG, which I know is a huge thing for myself and all of the community. We've all been looking forward to this for a long time. Summer seems far away right now, but I do think that this is something that's going to be a huge benefit to the game, especially if it comes in with some sort of collectible system so you can see what you've unlocked, what you haven't, and potentially, you know, work out where you can get these things. It's going to be massive. A lot of players are going to really enjoy this, and I think that's a huge benefit to the game that really gives it another huge MMO aspect. Things like World of Warcraft or ESO that have been very successful with these, it's going to be another follow-on from that, and I really like that idea because I think transmogs can really result in some cool outfits in games, so certainly excited for that one. You also see there another massive thing is raid groups, and the thing underneath that is the Sandworm Elite Trials. So essentially that is going to be what they're going to call the raids, is Elite Trials, and the Sandworm in Brimstone Sands is going to be our first encounter with raids in New World. Now they went on to detail the raid groups, saying that they would have essentially 4 groups in them, so 20 players. And it's going to be a 20-player event, the Sandworm Elite Trial. They said it's going to be the hardest PvE content in the game so far, which makes sense if it's going to require 20 players to fight against it. And I think this is going to be something a lot of people are really looking forward to. Now, they said in the dev update video, if they can beat it internally, then it isn't hard enough, which I think was a bit of a weird thing to say because you do obviously want it to be an achievable thing and not too grindy. But I think they're making the point of they really want this to be end game for top level PvE players that are consistently clearing gold mutation 10s with full 65 ward gear, etc. And that's kind of the group of 20 that you're going to want coordinated to fight onto the bosses. Now, we'll have to see what the Empyrean Forge expedition brings with us in terms of mechanics, but I know for definite the Ennead brought some really cool new stuff, especially in that last boss fight, so it'll be really interesting to see what they can bring to the table with a raid, and I think, again, this is something a lot of the community will be very pleased to hear about. Now, down the bottom of this list, we can see there is Cross-World OPR, or Outpost Rush. In my opinion, I think summer is quite far far off for this one, and without the mention of an additional map, I think the PvP side of the community is going to be wanting more. However, like they said, there may be some more stuff, so potentially this could be getting worked on in the background, but we are going to finally be getting cross-world OPR. Now, this is great. I think summer 2023, I would wish it was sooner than that. However, it does want to be stable when it comes out, so if they can make this a smooth release, that once it actually does come to the table, we're able to play it with minimal issues. You're going to expect a few, but minimal issues, and hopefully, you know, compatibility that works throughout the entire region, so we can all get these queues popping quickly. And what they did say in regard to this is that once that has gone live, if it is successful and it works as they intend it, etc., and they can fine-tune it up to a really good place, they then may look towards future game modes, you know, things like the 3v3s, becoming cross-server eventually, but they didn't put any specific time frame on that. And then finally, of course, we can see the Summer Medley Fair event version 2 will be again next summer. Again, similarly to the Winter Convergence that we're going to be seeing this month in Eternum, I would imagine it's a kind of upgraded, improved version of last year's event with some similar features and some new stuff, and hopefully some brand new, really cool rewards. But again, that is kind of the roadmap we're seeing. Now, down the bottom here, you'll see that there is additional content releases with each of these as well, which is Heart Gem Runes, Quality of Life improvements, and cinematics, which they said are some of the things that they're going to be additionally working on throughout the progression of obviously the spring and summer stuff in the development. And they also said there is some other things they aren't mentioning here because they don't have a specific time frame for, that are going to be coming into the game. And hopefully a few other things, maybe like an additional OPR map, which they've kept secret for now, that they're just going to spring onto us with a random update and say, oh, and actually you've got this, which would be really cool. But for definite, we're really looking forward to the gear set storage. We're really looking forward to the transmog. Those two things are huge, along with the raids. A new expedition is always nice, especially if it's got some cool loot. Obviously, improvements to the main story quest is great. It's not going to affect the vast majority of players at endgame, but it is good for the game's health overall. The events are always really, really cool, and I think that cross-world OPR, if this goes successfully and they branch out into the other game modes too, could be really, really huge. So overall, some great stuff. Hopefully, we do see some more stuff in the coming days and weeks regarding to content coming next year in the game, as obviously this is just spring and summer. Maybe some teasers towards some of the other content we know is in the works, but for now, this is a really, really good start. I would just wish some of the stuff was coming a little bit earlier, especially things like the cross-world OPR. Things they haven't mentioned that I would really like to see, like I've mentioned a couple of times, is going to be a new Outpost Rush map. I would also like to see some implementation of new weapons. It's always really fun getting a new one, especially, you know, the Greatsword's been a lot of fun. We did hear potentially in the future we could be seeing daggers. They're not on this list. That might be because they haven't got a set time for them. They're just going to work on them until they're ready, so they might pop up at some point. However, you know, it would be nice to see those sort of things added in, and all sorts of other different things, like, you know, we've heard about mounts potentially in the future. I don't think that's going to be a this year or next year type thing. I think this is end of 2023 at the earliest, but again, just a brief hint maybe that it is still being worked on would be cool. Maybe a new zone, again, if we had word that that was potentially coming. We don't know if there is going to be. We're assuming at some point there will be, but again, maybe if it's like the end of next year or early 2024, just a hint towards when we might get those would be cool to hear as well. But I'm guessing they're keeping a lot of it a secret for some sort of big reveal. So let me know your thoughts and feelings on this roadmap and the content updates we're going to be seeing over the next 6 months in Eternum in the comments down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with all of the latest and greatest in and across Eternum. And other than that, I will catch you guys again very, very shortly for a brand new video. So take care and peace.